There is a popular saying among centre-right people, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Sadly though, our legal system doesn't subscribe to this type of old-fashioned common sense. Being offended is now legally recognised, and anybody who causes offence can be charged with having committed an offence. It's no surprise that the people who seek remedy through these laws all come from the same identity groups, the type of groups that demand respect for their life choices because to not do so is bigoted, at least according to the zeitgeist. Conservatives and Christians never bother suing those who offend or insult them for two reasons. They aren't that easily offended and the judiciary wouldn't care anyway. The explicit purpose of laws prohibiting offensive language is not to protect everybody equally, which is what laws in a proper liberal society are meant to do, but to protect those identity groups who claim to be oppressed by the wider culture. As such, they are also designed to teach the bigoted mobs how to behave. The granddaddy of these legislative acts is Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act, which was passed by federal parliament in 1994. It had been drawn up by Labor Attorney General Michael Lavarch, who said at the time, quote, "Legislation can have a powerful educative role in promoting tolerance within the community," unquote. Get that? This type of law isn't only meant to prevent an entirely new type of crime, it's to educate the community how to behave. We should have seen where this would lead. Victimhood has since acquired a new status, and a generation of bureaucrats has emerged to defend victims against those whose values, quite rightly, don't comply with the type of morality promoted by this new legislation. One of the worst examples so far was cartoonist Bill Leak, who was hounded to the grave by the Australian Human Rights Commission over a cartoon in which he depicted one of the main causes of Indigenous disadvantage. That Bill's opinions were honestly held and fair didn't matter to the Human Rights Commission. He had defied the new orthodoxy and needed to be punished. My next guest is Christian campaigner and defender of human rights, Lyle Shelton, who is currently going through a similar situation. Lyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Fred.
Firstly, let's start with your background. As the leader of the Australian Christian lobby from 2013 to 2018, you were a prominent opponent of gay marriage at the time of the national plebiscite in 2017. Why did you oppose this plebiscite?
Well, we were concerned, Fred, that if you redefined marriage in law, that would then trigger all these 18C type provisions, like you mentioned from the Federal Racial Discrimination Act. In our state-based regime of anti-discrimination laws down at state level, there's 18C type provisions which then become weaponised against people who have a different view of marriage. So we were concerned about freedom of speech and freedom of religion being impacted. We're also very concerned that redefining marriage would lead to the teaching and indoctrination of children to radical gender fluid ideology at school. And of course, we've seen that happen on steroids, and we've now seen the women's sport thing. So there's been a whole lot of knock-on consequences that we could foresee, and that's why we campaigned so hard.